Let me talk to the one who keeps questioning their worth every time someone walks away, to the one who keeps reaching out, apologizing for things you never did, holding on to people who keep hurting you, draining you, doubting you. Here's the truth. You can't walk into your purpose dragging someone who doesn't even want to see you win. You're wasting energy trying to resuscitate relationships that God already buried. You were never created to be someone's emotional crutch. You weren't designed to sacrifice your peace just to keep others comfortable. Stop waiting on a text back. Stop checking their social media. Stop wondering what you did wrong. It's time to focus on your own healing. It's time to protect your own peace. It's time to take your power back. There's a reason they left. There's a reason they changed. There's a reason the door closed. And maybe, just maybe, it wasn't rejection. Maybe it was redirection. God didn't remove them because you're not enough. He removed them because they're not part of what He's building in you. Stop chasing what He's trying to remove. Stop praying for what He's already protected you from. You can't soar while staying tied to people who only see the old version of you. You've been upgraded. You've been stretched. You've been developed. And they're still treating you like the person you were 5 years ago. You don't owe anyone access to your future because they had a seat in your past. The pain of letting go is real, but the price of holding on is greater. You can't fulfill your calling if your energy is constantly pulled toward drama, dysfunction, and dead weight. You're not cold for walking away. You're not prideful for creating boundaries. That's wisdom. That's maturity. That's elevation. Letting go doesn't mean you hate them. It means you've chosen to love yourself enough to stop bleeding for people who wouldn't even give you a Band-Aid. Don't let guilt keep you stuck. Don't let history hold you hostage. Your healing is not a group project. It's personal. And when you finally shift your focus from them to you, you'll start to notice something. Your peace will return. Your creativity will flow. Your joy will rise. Because the weight of carrying what was never yours to carry will be gone. You were never meant to carry people, only to walk with them. And if they can't walk with you in purpose, then it's time to release them in peace. Not everyone is assigned to your destiny. There's a painful truth that we often struggle to accept. Not everyone in your life right now is meant to go with you where God is taking you. Some people are only assigned to a season, not a lifetime. And the longer you try to force lifetime expectations on seasonal people, the more frustrated and stuck you'll feel. See, some people were only placed in your life to play a part in your development, not your destination. But we confuse proximity with purpose, thinking just because someone started with us, they're supposed to finish with us. You have to understand God's calling on your life is personal. It's unique. It's divine. And because of that, not everyone will understand it. Nor should they. If your vision is God-given, it's going to look foolish to those who are not spiritually aligned with it. That's why trying to explain your next move to someone who doesn't even have the capacity to understand your assignment is exhausting. You don't need their permission to obey your purpose. You don't need their validation to walk in what God called you to do. The disciples didn't understand everything Jesus did, but He still had to go to the cross alone. Abraham had to leave his country, his relatives, and his father's house to step into the promise. That wasn't disobedience. That was obedience. Sometimes letting go isn't rebellion, it's revelation. God will reveal to you who's no longer aligned with your assignment, not because they're bad people, but because they've completed their purpose in your story. And once someone's purpose is fulfilled in your life, keeping them around becomes a distraction, not a blessing. One of the most dangerous things you can do is keep trying to resurrect expired relationships. People who don't carry your future will always try to chain you to your past. You'll start doubting your growth just to keep their comfort. You'll start minimizing your calling to make sure they don't feel left behind. But listen, your destiny is not something you can negotiate. It demands separation. It demands clarity. It demands courage to walk alone if necessary. It's not your job to carry people who refuse to grow. Some of the people you're losing were never invested in your development. They were only attached to your dysfunction. They liked you better when you were broken. They were more comfortable when you were insecure. And now that you're healing, learning, maturing, and moving forward, they feel threatened. Don't confuse their comfort with your calling. Their fear of your growth doesn't mean you should stop growing. Destiny demands discipline, and sometimes the most disciplined thing you can do is delete the number, block the access, and move forward without an explanation. You owe no one an apology for becoming the person God created you to be. When God elevates you, He often isolates you, not to punish you, but to protect what He's doing in you. The wrong people in your circle can corrupt the right purpose inside of you. You have to ask yourself, are they pushing me toward my purpose or pulling me away from it? Do they speak life into my vision, or do they constantly plant seeds of doubt? The people around you should challenge you to grow, not convince you to shrink. When God gives you a dream, it's your responsibility to protect it, even if that means protecting it from familiar faces. Letting go of people you love is never easy, especially when you've shared deep history with them. But just because you had a past with them doesn't mean they deserve access to your future. The sooner you release what no longer fits your purpose, the sooner you'll step into everything that does. Destiny isn't crowded. The path is narrow, and not everyone can handle the weight of where you're headed. Healing requires separation. Healing doesn't begin in chaos. It begins in stillness. It begins in silence. It begins when you step away from what keeps reopening the wounds you're trying to heal. You can't truly recover in the same place that broke you. That's like trying to clean a wound with the very thing that infected it. Sometimes God has to separate you, not to isolate you, but to sanctify you. He's pulling you out of toxic patterns, broken environments, and harmful relationships because what He's trying to do in you requires a different atmosphere. We often crave healing, but resist the separation it demands. Because let's be honest, being connected feels good, even when it's damaging. We get used to the pain. Familiar dysfunction can feel safer than unknown healing. But healing isn't comfortable, it's necessary. And if you keep surrounding yourself with people who profit off your brokenness, they will always sabotage your wholeness. Some people only love the weak version of you because your strength exposes their insecurity. You've got to make peace with walking away from people who refuse to see your worth beyond what you can give them. Healing means no longer begging people to treat you right. Healing means you stop justifying their abuse, their silence, their absence. And that healing often begins when you shut the door, not to be petty, but to be free. You have a right to protect your peace, even if it disappoints others. Stop apologizing for choosing you. There's a reason Jesus often withdrew from the crowds. Even He needed solitude to recharge, to realign, to restore. Some breakthroughs only come when you break away. If your soul feels heavy, it might not be because you're weak. It might be because you're surrounded by weights. People who don't understand your pain, don't support your purpose, and don't care about your healing have no place in your process. You need space to breathe again. Don't wait for their permission to heal. Don't wait for closure that will never come. Sometimes the closure is in the separation. You heal when you no longer need them to admit what they did. You heal when you stop reliving the betrayal and start building your future. And yes, it will hurt. Walking away always does. But healing is more valuable than temporary comfort. You're not weak for leaving. You're wise for choosing what's healthy. Some of the greatest healing happens in hidden places. While others are watching your absence, God is working on your anointing. Don't be afraid of the quiet season. Don't run from the alone moments. That's where God does His best work. You may feel like nothing is happening, but internally God is realigning your identity, reshaping your mindset, and repairing your heart. Don't fight the process. Flow with it. In your healing season, learn to sit with yourself. Learn to confront what you've avoided. Learn to be okay with letting go. You will never heal what you pretend doesn't hurt, and you can't change what you continue to tolerate. Separation exposes the source of your pain, and in that exposure, healing can begin. God can't fix what you're still covering up. So take off the mask, walk away from the noise, get still enough to hear Him again. And once the separation does its work, you'll realize something powerful. Healing doesn't just change how you feel. It changes what you accept, what you allow, what you pursue, and what you're willing to let go of so you never bleed from the same place again. Peace comes when you stop pleasing people. Pleasing is a silent prison. It's a life lived for applause that never comes. a constant reshaping of yourself just to fit someone else's mold. The more you try to be everything to everyone, the more you lose yourself. You become a watered-down version of who God called you to be because you're too afraid that the real, bold, unfiltered version of you won't be accepted. But here's the truth. You will never find peace living off someone else's approval. The need to please comes from a place of fear of rejection, fear of abandonment, fear of not being enough. So we overcompensate, we overextend. We say yes when we should say no. We smile when we want to scream. We stay silent when we know we should speak up. And all the while, we slowly suffocate under the weight of expectations that were never ours to carry. You don't need to be everything to be accepted. You just need to be authentic. Peace isn't found in performance, it's found in alignment. When your words, actions, and heart align with God's truth, that's where freedom lives. But as long as you're chasing people's opinions, you'll always feel anxious. Why? Because opinions change. People shift. One moment they love you, the next they leave you. You can't build your identity on unstable ground. God's approval is steady. It's constant. And it's the only approval you'll ever truly need. The danger with people pleasing is that it can mask itself as kindness. But real kindness has boundaries. Real love tells the truth. Real peace doesn't require pretending. People pleasing robs you of your your time, your energy, and your joy. And eventually you become resentful. Not because others took too much, but because you didn't protect what was sacred. Saying no is not rejection. It's redirection toward what matters. You have to ask yourself, am I sacrificing my peace just to keep others happy? Because if keeping them happy keeps you anxious, it's not healthy. You weren't born to carry everyone's expectations. You weren't created to live in the shadow of what others think you should be. You were crafted by God on purpose, for a purpose. And that purpose doesn't require approval stamps from people who don't even know your heart. Let this be the season where you stop explaining yourself. Stop apologizing for growing. Stop shrinking so others can feel tall. Stop overextending just to avoid conflict. You are not responsible for other people's comfort. You are responsible for your own calling. Peace isn't passive, it's a powerful choice. And sometimes choosing peace means choosing to walk away from what's familiar but toxic. When you stop pleasing people, you'll notice something amazing. You'll breathe again. You'll laugh again. You'll rest without guilt. You'll stop replaying conversations in your mind, wondering if you upset someone. You'll speak truthfully, live authentically, and love freely. That's the reward of peace. It gives you back. Not the version that was curated for approval, but the version that God designed before the world told you who to be. Peace is expensive, but it's worth the price. If it costs your peace, it's too expensive. Let this be the chapter where you stop giving discounts on your energy, where you realize that being accepted by everyone is not the goal. Being true to yourself and aligned with God is. That's where real peace lives, not in performance, not in perfection, but in presence, being present with yourself and with God without the pressure to please. Focusing on you isn't selfish, it's stewardship. One of the biggest lies we've been taught is that taking care of yourself is selfish. That prioritizing your mental, emotional, and spiritual health means you're neglecting others. But here's the truth, you can't pour from an empty cup. You can't be a blessing to others if you're constantly bleeding inside. Focusing on you isn't neglect, it's stewardship. It's honoring the life, the calling, and the vessel God entrusted to you. You are a temple, you are a soul, you are a mind, and all of those parts need care. But we've normalized burnout like it's a badge of honor. We glorify overworking, overgiving, overstretching until we break. But you can't sustain a life of purpose if you're always running on empty. Rest is not laziness. Saying, I need time for me, isn't arrogance, it's alignment. You are responsible for your own soul before anyone else's comfort. Jesus himself often withdrew to lonely places to pray, not because he was avoiding people, but because he understood his need to refill before he could pour out again. That's the rhythm of a healthy life. Receive, then release. You can't constantly give without returning to the source. Focusing on you is saying, I'm going to take responsibility for what God gave me. That's not pride. That's maturity. When you don't take time for your healing, your rest, your growth, you start resenting those who require something from you. You start giving out of pressure instead of purpose. And that's how bitterness builds. That's how burnout begins. You think you're being loyal, but you're slowly falling apart, and no one even sees it because you've made strength your identity. But real strength knows when to pause. You don't need to be available to everyone all the time. The pressure to be constantly accessible will rob you of your peace, your creativity, and your relationship with God. Every yes to someone else is a no to something in your own life. So you have to decide, will I keep saying yes to their needs at the expense of my soul? Or will I start showing up for me the way I show up for everyone else? Focusing on you doesn't mean ignoring people. It means knowing your boundaries. It means checking in with your emotions. It means spending time in prayer before making decisions. It means asking, is this life-giving or is this draining? God didn't design you to run on fumes. He designed you to live full, whole, and aware of the value you carry. You matter too. Not just what you do for others, but who you are when no one's looking. When you focus on you, something shifts. You stop needing constant affirmation. You start finding strength in silence. You become more rooted in who you are in Christ than in who people expect you to be. You stop reacting and start responding with wisdom. That's the fruit of stewardship, clarity, peace, alignment. And suddenly what felt chaotic starts making sense because you're no longer fighting for space in others' lives. You're owning your space in your own. The enemy wants to distract you with business, so you never become intentional. But when you stop, breathe, reflect, and focus, you take back your authority. You start moving with purpose instead of pressure. And that's when healing begins. That's when the vision clears. That's when the pieces start coming together. Not because everyone else changed, but because you did. Because you chose to value what God put inside you enough to slow down and steward it well. Growth feels lonely, but it's wholly one of the hardest parts of growing is realizing how lonely the journey can feel. Not because you're unlovable or broken, but because you're outgrowing what used to fit. The conversations that once fueled you now drain you. The people who used to understand you now question your every move. And in that space between where you were and where you're going, it's easy to feel like you're all alone. But listen, you're not alone. You're being set apart. There's a difference between isolation and separation. Isolation is what the enemy uses to discourage you. Separation is what God uses to develop you. You may feel like you've been pulled away, left out, or forgotten, but in reality, God is protecting what He's building inside you. Growth doesn't happen in the crowd. It happens in the quiet, in the stretch, in the space where no one else claps, but God still speaks. When God starts elevating you, He'll often subtract first. Why? Because He knows not everyone can handle the weight of where you're going. Growth reveals who is truly connected to your character and who is just addicted to your comfort zone. And sometimes the loneliness isn't punishment, it's preparation. It's God saying, before I add, I need to refine. Before I release, I need to reveal. Don't rush to fill the quiet places. Don't try to replace every person who leaves. Some doors have to close so your spirit can finally breathe. The loneliness you feel isn't a sign you're doing something wrong. It's a sign that you're becoming someone new. And when you're becoming new, the old can't follow. That includes old mindsets, old habits, and yes, sometimes even old friendships. Think about the caterpillar. In the cocoon, it's isolated, still, hidden, unrecognizable. But inside that darkness, transformation is taking place. If you interrupted that process, you'd destroy what was being birthed. The same goes for you. Don't resent the cocoon. Respect it. Embrace the holy hush that comes before the emergence. God is not punishing you with loneliness. He's preparing you for flight. And yes, it's painful. Yes, you'll miss people. You'll miss the laughter, the familiarity, the ease of not having to explain yourself. But growth comes with grief. The grief of losing what was to make room for what will be. It takes spiritual maturity to say, I still love you, but I can't stay here. That's not arrogance. That's obedience. Loneliness in growth is sacred. It's where God sharpens your discernment. It's where He rewrites your identity. It's where you discover who you are without the noise of opinions and expectations. In the silence, you hear His voice clearer. In the stillness, you recognize your strength. And when the season shifts, you'll look back and realize that lonely season was holy ground. So the next time you feel alone, remember, it may not be a pit. it might be a process. A sacred space where God is stripping away distractions so he can reveal destiny. And when you finally step into the fullness of who you're becoming, you won't need to force anyone to see it. The fruit of your growth will speak louder than any explanation ever could.